Hi, in this movie I'm going to be looking at how we use Adobe Fonts in Photoshop, in Illustrator and in InDesign. Now the reason I'm doing this is because there is a little bit, it's unusual for Adobe, but there's a little bit of inconsistency in how we access the fonts. I've opened up this poster that I put together just for fun. It's an image of my daughter. She's into vintage, so I put it together with this rather lovely vintage Coca-Cola illustration, nothing to do with me. So I opened this up, and the thing that was notable was this font here, this typeface. Now, I know that this was Futura Condensed when I made this poster, and it still looks like Futura Condensed, but there's something off with it. If we have a look up here on my status bar, you can see, because I've got the type tool selected, that it says Futura Condensed up here. And I'm not sure you'll be able to make this out on the video, but it's actually in brackets. When you see a typeface name in brackets in any application really, but in the Adobe products, it means that that font isn't available currently. Now, assuming I don't touch that, it will behave perfectly okay. So I could save this Photoshop document as a JPEG and the type will still look okay. But if I wanted to edit the type, let's say I didn't want the old Coca-Cola phrase, the pause that refreshes, I wanted to change it to something different, or I wanted to take the exclamation mark off, or I just wanted something else in there. The minute I touch this type, I'm going to get this message: the following fonts are missing for text layer, the pause that refreshes. The font that's missing is Futura PT Condensed Bold, and it says font substitution will occur, continue. Now at this point I could cancel, in which case nothing happens, but I said I wanted to edit this type, so I'm going to have to click OK. And now the minute that I do that, it's going to recognize this as being basically a vector font, and it will substitute, and you can see now it's substituted for Myriad Pro. And if I go and have a little look through my fonts, I don't have my Futura installed or active. Okay, now if I click here, I can see all my Adobe fonts. So if I hover over this for a second, it says it will show Adobe fonts. If I go down to where Futura should be, you can see Futura's here, but I'm looking for Futura PT Condensed, and it's grayed out and I can't access it. Okay, so I need to activate it. Now in Photoshop, the way we do that is we go where it says more from Adobe Fonts, we click on the little Creative Cloud symbol just here, and it will take us straight to the Adobe Fonts website. Okay, and you can see I've got all these different fonts. Now I know that I'm looking for something very specific, so I'm looking for Futura. So I'm going to type in Futura, and it's Futura PT, which is right here. And you can see that there's lots of different fonts within this typeface family. I only really need Futura PT Condensed Bold, okay, which is this one here. So I could just choose to activate this single font. Okay, it says font activation successful, and that would be okay. If I need to, I could also activate all the fonts. So I could activate Futura PT, Futura Bold, and there's obviously an italicized version of that as well, and Futura PT Condensed. So I could choose to activate all or some of these, okay, or I could activate them individually. I'm only going to activate this, and when I go back, I'm just going to undo. Oops, I just need to get out of that. So I'm just going to undo that to the point where the font hadn't changed. And now you can see on my character panel here, it says Futura PT Condensed Bold, and it's no longer in brackets. And if I want to edit my text, I want to say this is the real thing. I can edit my text without any difficulty at all. So that's how we activate fonts in Photoshop. Now, before, I'm just going to put this back. I liked it the way it was, really. So I'm going to just change this back to the pause that refreshes. Ooh, there we are. Just need to. There we are. So if I wanted to change this typeface and I want to try a different look, perhaps I can activate other fonts as well. So if I go to more from Adobe Fonts again, and I can search through the Adobe Fonts website. Now you can do this in Illustrator and InDesign as well, and once they're activated, they will remain activated in all the applications. I'm just going to show you the differences between how we do this. Okay, so on the website itself, we can look at different classifications of fonts. So we've got things like sans serif, serif, slab serif, etc. Now I want to try out maybe a different sans serif typeface. And I might want to just look at fonts that are only available all in caps. So now it's going to show me everything that's just in caps. Now it's a kind of vintagey looking poster, so I want something that will work with my poster. And I can keep looking, and obviously you can type in. I've got the pause that refreshes up here. Let's just turn that into a capital R there. And I can have a little look through and see if there's anything that takes my fancy. Okay. And as soon as I see something that I like, I don't particularly like it, but I'm going to activate this one. So this is called Phino Sans, and to say I don't like it's a bit unfair. I don't particularly like it for my poster. So I'm going to activate all 4 of these. Okay, so I've activated those, and then when I come back, I can select my type, and I can type in Phino. Ooh. There we go. So it might be Phino Sans Regular. I'll go for the bold, I think. There we go. So that's how we activate and use fonts from the Adobe website in Photoshop. I'm now going to show you how that works using Adobe Illustrator. Now we're looking at Adobe Illustrator. I've got a drawing and I've got a little piece of text in here. So I've got a single text box divided into 2 columns in Adobe Illustrator, and the type is currently just in the default typeface, which is Myriad Pro again. It's currently at 8 points. Let's just zoom in on here so you can see what I'm doing. Now, I want to change this to something different. I've just been and deactivated all my fonts, so this is going at it as though I've never activated an Adobe font before. So I need to go and have a little look. Now, when we looked at this in Photoshop, it took us automatically to the Adobe Fonts website, or fonts.adobe.com. The way Illustrator works is a little bit different to that. If I choose the type tool and I just click on here, I'm just going to highlight this type and choose a new typeface. So I've got my my status bar up here, and you can see it says Myriad Pro. Now, if I just click here, instead of the more from Adobe little thing we've got going on in Photoshop, I've got this. Okay, so you can see here I do have some fonts that are active, but these are all open type. Now, if I want to find more, I click Find More, and assuming I'm signed in to my Adobe Creative Cloud account, then this will activate or Adobe Fonts instantly. But we see them from within Illustrator. Okay, we can still do the filter thing, but we do it from here instead. So where it says filters, I always thought this was a little golf tee, and somebody pointed out it's a filter. So we can click on our little filter symbol, and then we can have a look at sans serif, serif, slab serif fonts, our script fonts, all the same kinds of things. A little bit cut down from the website, but it's still useful. So let's say I want to look at some sans serif fonts, then I can do this, and I can have a look at fonts with particular properties. So let's say I wanted to have a look at things that are regular width, or I might want to look at condensed width typefaces, low contrast fonts, that kind of thing. So I can make selections from here. So let's have a look. If I click on my condensed things, you can see it's only showing sans serif typefaces that are a condensed width. I might want to, so we can see here we've got this typeface which has got a lot of contrast between the thicks and thins, if you like. But if I choose low contrast, they'll disappear. So I've now only got these kind of typefaces. So now I can make my selection. So I might want to go for something like this. Now it says 16 here, so whilst it shows me a typeface, if I flick this open, you can see I can have a look at different weights. So I might want to go for something that's regular weight. And then I click on the little cloud at this end, and it'll ask, do I want to activate this font? And I say, okay. And you can see there, it's busy activating, and up here it's just told me that it has been activated. So now I need to select it. So select all, I think it was called Reno. I wasn't even paying much attention there. Oh no, it wasn't. So now I can click on here to see my activated fonts. Let's just try that again. There it is, active. There we are. Okay, so that's how we access those fonts in Illustrator. I actually think the way Photoshop do it is just more straightforward and a bit more transparent, but you do need to know that there are some differences, which is why we're doing this. Next, I'm going to show you how we do pretty much the same thing in InDesign. Okay, so now we're looking at how we handle our fonts in Adobe InDesign. The way InDesign handles these is slightly different again. When our fonts are deactivated or switched off, they are highlighted in this kind of pink colour. So where you see this pink highlight, that alerts you to the fact that the font is deactivated. Now, when you open a document that's got deactivating fonts, straight away it gives you this dialog, and it shows you, it lists all these missing fonts, but it's got a really handy little activate button just here. The thing that you need to make sure of is that it says Adobe Fonts is enabled here with a little green tick. As long as that is showing, you should just be able to hit the activate button, and after a few moments you should get an alert coming up here. There we go, if you're on a Mac, and it tells you that 10 fonts have been activated and your page should return to its original state and look the way it was supposed to be looking. So I can close this down now. Now, there are a couple of little issues with using the Adobe fonts in InDesign, and it feels a little bit like a bug. I'm going to demonstrate what happens when we decide to activate a new font that we've not used before in InDesign, or one that's currently switched off. So I've reactivated all the fonts that were already existing within my document, but let's see what happens when we try and use something new. So I want to change the typeface for my heading here. So I'm going to highlight my text, and if I come up to where it says Acumen Pro Condensed up here, which is its current typeface, and click, you can see we've got similar things that we had in Adobe Illustrator. We've got our little filters thing, and you can see here I've got nothing selected currently, so I'm just going to leave that the way it is. And up here I can see it says find more, and it says more fonts available to use. So if I click on this, it's showing me all the available fonts on the Adobe website from within InDesign. Now this sounds great, and I think once they've ironed out the wrinkles it will be, but there are a few little issues. Now I'm going to choose something that's a bit distinctive. I'll tell you what, I'm just going to do a little filter. I'm going to look for script faces. There we go. So these are all script styles. So I'm going to find about this one. This one's called Austin Pen. I think we'll go with this one. So we'll go with Austin Pen Regular, just because it's very distinctive. Now to activate it from within InDesign, you can see we've got this little font, this little symbol here, sorry, it says activate. I could also just choose this little like wavy, double wavy line. It says show similar fonts. So if I click on that, it will show me anything that's similar to it. Okay, so that's a nice way of being able to find things. But I'll go with the Austin Pen, and then I'm going to click the activate. Now it says activate this font, so I click OK. Now remember, I'm showing you that this has got a little bit of a bug. Now it tells me up here that the font has been activated, okay, and it's called Austin Pen Bold, and I'm just going to hide that. So now I want to apply Austin Pen Bold, and it should appear up here, okay, and you can see that it's not listed. And if I type in Austin, now this time it has, it's given me it. It doesn't always, is what I'm trying to say. So sometimes you will go looking for the font and it doesn't appear directly. So you might need to wait. Sometimes you might need to quit out of the application and reopen, and it will behave properly. But what I'm trying to get through is it doesn't always behave correctly. So it's important that you understand that it might not necessarily be anything that you've done wrong. It's just the software may not be behaving exactly as it should. Now I know that it's not my my computer, it's not my Mac here, because I'm currently recording this at home whilst in isolation, but it also happens on my computer in my office at work, and it also happens on the PCs that we use in our CAD suite. So I know that it's a problem across the board, both on Mac and on PC. So it's just something that you need to be aware of. It doesn't matter though. If you want to, you can always use the website. So you can go to fonts.adobe.com and you can browse fonts and select them directly from here and activate them, and they will work in Photoshop, Illustrator and InDesign in exactly the same way. And that's it.